the top 20% being the best in class, the middle 50% being the industry average, and the bottom 30% being the laggards. We also sometimes do leaders and followers, where the leaders would be the top 35% and the followers would be the bottom 65%. And what we're then able to do is marry the PACE methodology and the best-in-class framework together to kind of give a step-by-step guide on what organizations should be doing to become better at whatever it is we're talking about. So you're going to see a lot of charts here where you're going to see one bar being larger than the other. Don't worry so much about what the exact numbers are. Worry about the story behind the data and what it's trying to tell you. If you see that a top-performing organization is more likely to have a certain capability or technology, you can think that, well, maybe that's a contributing factor to why they're actually performing more effectively. So if you see those that have ERP are more likely to perform more effectively and complete non-timed shipments, that's something that you should take away and use as a reason to maybe implement this type of technology. So with that said, why don't we jump into the actual data and talk about some of the findings that I was able to find. So let's start by talking about the challenges that growing organizations are facing today. Growth is the #1 challenge for today's business. You see 53% cited that managing growth expectations is one of their top 2 challenges. And as I mentioned on a few slides ago, growth really adds a lot of challenges to a business. You're operating in ways that you've never been asked to before, and you're exposed to a lot more things like more business units, more locations, reaching customers in further geographic distances, more competitors, really the types of things that make it very difficult to continue to operate as you have in the past. Your processes might get lost, your best practices, you're losing the ability to easily collaborate between people within your organization. Your business leaders are more and more removed from the line of business, and they don't have true insight into what's actually going on a day-to-day basis. Organizations need to find ways to avoid these pitfalls as they grow to continue to operate as they have in the past. And of course, these growth expectations come with a lot of other challenges as well that growing businesses must contend with. Things like higher costs. It simply costs more to operate, and there's a lot of costs that come with growth that you've been able to avoid in the past. But really what I think is a real key challenge for the growing organization today is the delays in decision-making from a lack of timely information. So a lot more is going on with your organization, and you don't have relevant insight into what's going on a daily basis to make decisions that organization can have confidence in. So with access to more data at the right time, you can help to minimize some of those challenges and become a more agile organization and make better decisions. You also see a lack of collaboration when organizations grow. You're removing employees that may have been sitting next to each other in the past. Now they could be, they could be separated by several states, even countries, and it's a lot more difficult to share information and work together if you don't have access to the same information and you can't easily communicate. And then the inability to react to business change. So a growing organization by default is going to experience a lot of change, both in the technology it's using to support the company, but also in basically what's going on a daily basis. So you're introducing new product lines. You're forced to contend with more regulatory bodies. There's a lot of different change that you need to be able to roll with as an organization to ensure that you can continue to increase profits without experiencing significant costs. Now, typically technology would be one of the key ways to avoid some of these challenges that we were talking about on the last slide, but we're finding that a significant portion of growing organizations are also facing some challenges with their technology. Oftentimes this may be they're using inadequate technology. They may be operating their business simply on spreadsheets, which is something that I've done quite a bit of research about and is something that I would completely encourage against as an organization. And here's some of those challenges that these organizations are facing. Number one, a lack of collaboration capabilities. Again, they're not able to easily share and access data. When you're working on spreadsheets, there are a lot of challenges, things like broken formulas, problems with version control, lack of security around the data contained within spreadsheets that make it very difficult to collaborate using them effectively. You also see challenges such as business systems cannot interact with one another. So you may have a lot of different types of technology that you use to run your organization, maybe HR systems, maybe manufacturing execution systems, whatever it is that you use to run your business. You really need to be looking for a single source of truth, because otherwise you could be making decisions that are based on inaccurate data, which is really only going to cause problems for your organization. Also, you see difficulty sharing data outside of your organization. In today's business environment, it's expected that you're going to be able to share information with your extended enterprise, which could be your customers, your resellers, your suppliers, even regulatory bodies. When you don't have the easy ability to share that data outside of the organization, it becomes very difficult to do business with, and you could very easily lose customers just because of that. Your suppliers are going to be expecting you to be able to share data with them. Sharing data will allow you to better plan and forecast for demand, purchase materials, ensure you get better prices for materials. There's all sorts of things that you're missing out of when you have inadequate technology today. And then lastly, inaccurate data, which is unsurprising when you have challenges with technology. So how are organizations addressing this challenge or these challenges? Well, we have found that the majority of leading organizations or leading growing organizations are putting their business in the position to grow utilizing technology. This means business management and ERP solutions, but really it's about taking it further than just those solutions. It's how much value are you getting out of your ERP solution itself, and we're finding that top performers really look to emerging technologies that are going to allow them to take their businesses to the next level. You see that leaders, again, you see that I would say purplish fuchsia bar is much bigger than the followers green bar on this slide, and that's telling you that they're much more likely to have some of these capabilities in place. So let's talk about mobile access to ERP. Mobile access to ERP or business management solutions is an absolutely essential capability to have in today's business environment. What that means is you're giving your employees access to the information they need no matter where they are, no matter what time of day it is. So you've got employees out in the field maybe servicing machinery. You've got employees in the warehouse. You've got employees out in the trucks or on the shop floor. In the past, it's been difficult for them to have easy access to fast and relevant information because they'd have to go back to a workstation to find that information. What we're finding is that top performers are much more likely to have mobile access to ERP, 3 times as likely, in fact. And that doesn't mean simply throwing ERP up on a mobile device. That means, or the whole suite up on a mobile device. That means having specific applications and specific dashboards that are tailored to individual roles and processes. Roles like order management, field service management, inventory tracking. These are the types of things that employees would really benefit from having instant access to when they're away from a desk. So it's all about what you're enabling on the mobile device rather than just throwing the whole ERP suite on it. Then you also see that leaders are more likely to have business analytics or intelligence integrated into ERP. And what that means is getting more value out of the data contained within ERP, really looking to a more user-friendly solution where employees can make their own charts, really explore the data that's relevant to them, and that's really going to drive more decisions because it's going to make them much more engaged with their ERP solution and result in better decisions across the organization. And then lastly on this slide you see social business capabilities integrated into ERP. So what does that mean? We've seen a lot of ERP vendors start to introduce these type of capabilities. They're really similar to what you would experience with Facebook or LinkedIn or even Twitter, where you can tag conversations, tag processes, tag other employees to join in on the conversation to communicate more effectively and in a more user-friendly manner, as well as track that communication for future reference. So this is an emerging technology that's really bringing more value to ways in which organizations can interact with their business management solutions. So setting that stage for growth really talks about relying on some of those emerging technologies that are becoming more available within ERP and business management solutions today. And you really can't talk about emerging technology without talking about cloud technology. And what we see here is the percentage of leading organizations that are utilizing their ERP solutions or deploying their ERP solutions in the cloud as software as a service today in comparison to those that are deploying them on-premise. And you see that the leaders are more likely currently to have implemented a cloud solution, while the followers are more likely to actually have implemented a on-premise solution. Now, these adoption rates still show that things are heavily currently weighted towards on-premise, but I'll tell you, I've been doing research here at Aberdeen for almost 7 years now, and over that time we've asked the question, what type of deployment method are you willing to consider for your ERP solution? And over that time we've seen a significant amount of organizations switch and say that they're now more likely to consider a cloud solution, as opposed to, over that same time period, see a decreasing amount of organizations that were willing to consider an on-premise solution. So I do believe in the near future we're going to come to a time where the majority of newer deployments for ERP are actually happening in the cloud. So we've really talked a lot about what the emerging technologies are. These are really what's going to set the stage of growth. Let's talk about how organizations are doing so today and why they choose these types of solutions. So now that we've talked about the types of technologies and emerging technologies that top-performing organizations are implementing today to support their growth, I want to talk really about what should be contained within an ERP and business management solution, and why your organization should look to an end-to-end solution that's really going to be a foundation for your growth on an ongoing basis. Rather than looking at multiple point solutions to run your business, you should really be looking at one single source of truth and one single source of workflows to ensure holistic unit rather than multiple different types of units. Really, that's what made you successful in the first place, so why not continue that type of operations as your organization continues to grow? So first we looked at the modules that are implemented by leaders within their ERP and business management solutions, and what we found is that leaders are more likely to have a wide variety of modules implemented within their ERP to support their operations from end to end. Things in the back office like accounts payable and accounts receivable. More customer-facing stuff like order management. Also, we have things that are used to really help to automate the shop floor, like materials requirements planning and other manufacturing technology. We also have CRM type technology like sales and marketing. Really, you should be looking for a solution that really supports all of your business needs from end to end so that you can become one more effective organization. And now let's look at some of the key capabilities that are top-performing organizations are more likely to have implemented within their ERP solution. Again, this is how they're ensuring that they're really getting everything they need to support them as they grow for a long, long time. So we have that simple solutions improve collaboration, visibility, agility, and customer management. Just some of the key capabilities that you should look for in your ERP solution, and these are really the core tenets of effective growth as an organization. So when it comes to collaboration, having real-time collaboration across departments and divisions, leaders are over twice as likely to have this capability. We're looking for the types of capabilities that are related to visibility when it comes like demand planning and forecasting, fully integrated view of all customer information. Decision makers can drill down from summary data to all transactions. Really, one single source of all real-time data that your organization needs to run on a daily basis. Enabling employees to access this data in a self-service capacity rather than having to go to IT. Really, it's all about having an easy-to-use solution that's going to allow your employees to get as much value out of that solution as possible. So with that said, why don't we talk a little bit about how to continue to drive value from ERP and really use it to support your growth as your organization changes on an ongoing basis. Number one, we found that leaders are more likely to stay current with their ERP. So ERP is not simply a set it and forget it type of technology. The organizations that are most effective and are getting the most value out of their solution are ensuring that they're always looking to a solution that's updated to reflect emerging technologies, emerging trends, and emerging best practices. We talked earlier about some of the emerging technologies such as mobile, business analytics, social capabilities. These are the types of things that are being built into ERP by your software vendors as time goes on. And if you're stuck on an old version of ERP, you're not going to be able to take advantage of that technology. So this is why we found that 48% of leaders are implemented on the latest release, in comparison to only 28% of followers. So we do see that the followers are more likely to be a couple releases behind on their ERP, meaning that, yes, it's great that they have a solution in place, but they're really losing out by not enabling their solution itself to grow with their organization. And I think I'm going to show you on the next slide some of the ways in which these organizations are actually missing out by not staying on the current release of ERP. So let's talk about some of the benefits of staying upgraded when it comes to ensuring an up-to-date industry-specific functionality. So you see those with the latest version with that orange bar in comparison to those that are not on the latest version of ERP with that red bar on some of the capabilities they're more likely to have as an organization. And it comes down to really some of the emerging best practices and emerging technologies that they should be able to take advantage of if they are to stay current on ERP. So you see that 45% of those on the latest version of ERP compared to 40% of those that are not on the latest utilize best practices contained within their ERP solution. So as time goes on, your ERP vendor interacts with, of course, your organization, but also peer organizations within your industry. And as a result of those interactions, they're constantly building in new functionality that really supports the needs of your industry and the best practices that are happening in your industry. If your organization is not staying on the most current version of ERP, you're not able to take advantage of those best practices. So just because you've had a specific process and a specific way of doing things in the past, and that's been successful for you, that doesn't mean that shouldn't change. Your organization should continuously be improving in order to stay competitive. And in order to do that, you need to change some of the practices within your organization. By relying on your ERP vendor to understand what some of those best practices are, you can, by default, continuously improve as an organization and hopefully drive more results. You also see that those on that latest version of ERP are more likely to take advantage of some of those emerging technologies we talked about before. Business analytics, mobile access to ERP, social business capabilities. But we also see here 50% of those on the latest version, 57% of those on the latest version, in comparison to only 33% of those not on the latest, are likely to have e-commerce integrated into ERP and order management. So as the world changes, more and more of your customers are going to find more ways to interact with your organizations, and you're going to be faced with more channels and more ways to communicate with those customers. E-commerce is one of those. Ordering products online more effectively than just going to a brick and mortar store. If your organization doesn't have an easy web premise, you're missing out on a lot of customers. So, and then of course you need to figure out ways in which to support that organizationally and from a workflow standpoint. So integrating e-commerce with your ERP solution itself is to ensure that that transition is going to happen seamlessly, all the right data is going to end up in the right place, and you can get your products out to your customers when they're expecting them at a good price. So really that's something that's really a must-have as your organization continues to compete in the changing environment. Then we also have the ability to integrate ERP capabilities with the Internet of Things. You're going to hear about this more and more in the coming months, and ERP vendors are really committing to it. You see that 21% of those on the latest version have this capability, compared to 0% or none of those that are not on this latest capability. So what that means is interacting your business systems with the devices used to run your business and making sense of the data contained within those systems is going to allow you to make decisions you've never been able to make in the past. Things like changing process flows related to production and shutting down production when certain conditions are met, ramping up production when certain conditions are met as well. This is a capability that's going to really automate your business and make you become more effective in the coming years. So we talked a little bit about analytics. So as we know, leaders are more likely to have these types of solutions. But what does that mean? So let's compare the organizations with ERP and analytics to the organizations that do not have these solutions. What we're finding is that organizations that have ERP and analytics have a lot more robust access to consumable data than those that do not have these technologies. You see, decision makers can drill down from summary data to transactions. Data can be shared with the extended enterprise. They have a centralized repository of metrics and KPIs, production of variance reports. They can even do things like track product costs. Really, it's allowing them to do more with the data contained within ERP and make more analytical decisions. So they can forecast more effectively. They can have confidence when making decisions that are going to run the business. They can better forecast and plan for demand. They can more effectively purchase materials. Really, it's taking advantage of the data contained within ERP to make you a more agile and more informed organization. And then we have mobile access to ERP. We talked about how it's not about just throwing ERP on the full suite of ERP on a mobile device. It's all about finding tailored and specific applications that really support the processes and people within your organization and what they're actually trying to accomplish on a daily basis. We see how mobile ERP can improve visibility and customer service. It's enabled organizations to be more likely to have real-time visibility into the status of all processes and data. It gives them fully integrated views of all customer information, so you can have your salespeople out in the field or in a store have all access to customer information right in their fingertips to ensure that that information is accurate and improves the customer experience. It's really going to allow your organization to be more effective. And then you have data entry at the point of activity, which is going to help your organization to ensure that the data it actually has is accurate and usable, as opposed to having your employees walk back to a workstation to enter inventory. This is really going to really speed up the amount of time it takes them to do their jobs and ensure that they're doing their jobs more effectively. So we've kind of talked a little bit about what your organization needs to do to support growth. Let's talk a little bit about the proof of what these capabilities and strategies and the impact that's going to have on your organization. We've seen that leaders get more out of ERP, and leaders are those that really have committed to staying up to date with their ERP, providing capabilities that are essential for their employees to perform, really making sure that their ERP is as easy to use and user-friendly as possible. And you see that leaders are more likely to have seen improvements in things like inventory turns, stock-to-sales ratio, operational costs, administrative costs. You can read on down the list, but this is not the percentage of leaders that have actually reported these improvements. This is the percentage improvement that these leaders have reported on average. So on average, leaders have seen a 12% improvement in operational costs as a result of their ERP solution, which is something that's really going to enable a growing organization to get more value out of ERP and then reinvest that money into the business to become even more competitive. So now you know what you need to do. Let's talk a little bit about how you can get started. So let's talk about how top-performing organizations, and we just have 2 slides on this. You can find a lot more information about this on Aberdeen.com or on Sage's website as well. What best-in-class organizations are doing when it comes to implementing ERP. And it really all starts with setting the implementation roadmap, defining what some of the best practices and what some of the features and functions you need to be reflected within your ERP solution is really where to go. So making sure that you have a cross-functional team that's able to identify the gaps between ERP and other internal technologies is really defining what really your needs are. We ask, what are the top selection criteria that organizations are utilizing when selecting ERP? It starts with functionality, and then it's ease of use, and both of these occur before cost. So defining what you need to get out of your system. And then once you've done so, set a timeline, set a roadmap, set a project plan, and a methodology to determine exactly what needs to be done, starting with classification and meta tagging of your data, creating a project timeline and identifying who's on the team. This is really how you're going to get started. And then to take it to the next level, utilizing your cross-functional teams featuring IT in the line of business. Of course, you need line of business because they're the ones that are going to actually be utilizing this ERP solution and getting the most value out of it, so they need to be involved in the process. Involving them and making sure that they're there to see through the project from end to end. And then, of course, as with any project, you're going to want to have a process for early warning for changes in ERP project scope. You're going to want feedback from the ongoing employee training integrated into the project plan. You need to be agile when it comes to implementing ERP to ensure that it reflects the needs of your business. So I've got some final recommendations for you, but before I do that, I just wanted to reiterate some of the key findings that we talked about today. We talked about the challenges that businesses face when it comes to managing growth and how they have difficulty managing their operations due to a lack of visibility into essential data. We talked about what your organization needs to look at when it looks for solution use to support its business. And it really needs to look for emerging technologies that are going to really create that platform for growth when it comes to helping to improve visibility, agility, collaboration, and customer management. And then we talked about really how organizations can really improve their ERP implementation and upgrade strategies to support continuous improvement. So with that said, let's talk about some final recommendations. Number one, start by identifying what your functionality needs are. Do you have specific product lines and specific processes that you need to support within your ERP solution? That really are kind of the must-haves that you're creating during your selection process. If your ERP vendor can't handle those must-haves, really you need to look elsewhere. But at the same time, you really need to understand that these ERP vendors are building best practices based on your industry into their solution. So you can't be too rigid with your processes and can't expect to have too much customization. We do recommend to take advantage of the best practices contained within ERP rather than relying too much on customization. Next, stay current. Just as your organization needs to continuously improve, it needs to continuously improve the technology that it's using to support that organization at the same time. Consider the cloud. This is, as I mentioned, probably one of the most emerging trends within the ERP space. We're finding that more and more organizations are looking to the cloud, and there are a lot of key benefits related to the cloud that you can find out about on Aberdeen.com and on the Sage website as well. But really it comes down to improved collaboration, improved access to data, and a lack of a need to support the solution using your own internal IT staff. Then create a defined methodology and implementation/upgrade plan for your ERP solution to ensure that you're really committing to getting the full value out of that solution. And then lastly, continuously improve both in the processes you're using to support your organization as well as the technology you're using to implement those processes. So with that said, I'm going to pass this over to the Sage team to talk a little bit about their solution and how it can help to support the best practices that I talked about today. But after that, I will be back on for some question and answer. But with that said, let me pass that over to Sage.
So many for that fascinating presentation. And from my perspective, I think there were some really great takeaways and data points in there. So what I wanted to do in following up was provide everyone with just a little information on Sage and how we are potentially well positioned to help with some of the growing pains that our customers have, and as identified in the slides by Nick. So for those who don't know too much about Sage, we provide accounting, ERP and business management, HR, payroll, asset management and payment solutions for businesses worldwide. Formed in 1981, Sage was floated on the London Stock Exchange in 1989 and entered the FTSE 100 in 1999. Sage currently has millions of customers and more than 13,000 employees in 24 countries, covering the UK and Ireland, mainland Europe, North America and South America, South Africa, Australia and Asia. As a market leader globally, we understand that reimagining business is not about playing catch-up. It's about leapfrogging the competition. Too often, businesses make decisions based on what's in the rearview mirror rather than what's in the headlights. Everything we do starts and finishes with building customers for life by offering them choice, support, expertise, and innovation. That means championing their causes. It means offering them choice rather than forcing change upon them, and letting them know we'll be ready to move to the next level when they are. We believe we do business the right way, building trust with customers by being the go-to source of business advice for small and medium businesses. Sage is not a typical product or software company as some may think. Instead, we partner with our customers so we can understand their business, what's important to them, and how they define success. We find out what keeps them up at night and where they can be more effective and efficient. Once we have this knowledge, we identify business solutions that can create greater freedom for them to achieve their definition of success. Yes, we have a product portfolio, but we are a business solutions company that is differentiated by the customer experience that we deliver, to give customers what they want, when and where they want it. We have a single global technology strategy for cloud, mobile, and on-premise accounting, ERP and business management, payroll, and CRM solutions. As your business grows and encounters new technology challenges, our portfolio of solutions has been designed to operate and integrate within the technology framework that best fits and grows with your business. So for most of you on the call today, your success depends both on your ability to proactively manage your sales, orders, operations, and financial performance, but also to react and take advantage of changing market, customer, supplier, and business partner expectations and demands. But adopting best practice is only part of the story. It first starts with knowing where you are in both age and stage, and as importantly, where you're going. Then either continue to use or change the solutions you're using to manage your business, depending on where your business is on the maturity curve. For example, if you're a startup, your challenges are chiefly around building your brand and your reputation, netting and retaining your first customers, becoming profitable, and setting up a strong foundation to get to the next level. As your business moves into the growth phase, additional complexity and requirements come into play. Major challenges center on opening more than one office or multiple warehouses, for example, hiring and fusing middle management, making payroll, ensuring your employees stay and are happy, and, while you're growing, facing increasing competition. In the established to maturity phases, integration becomes important to ensure complete visibility into all aspects of your business. A different set of challenges appear here, such as information overload, that is, being able to extract actionable data from increasingly complex data feeds. Of course, finding and keeping the most qualified talent, maintaining competitive positions, and keeping customers loyal and strategically involved come into play at this stage as well. And moving all the way through the curve, exit can be very interesting as well. Preparing to retire or move on to other projects, they want to make their business as attractive as possible to potential buyers, so looking to upgrade their business management solution to the latest and the greatest. So separate but important challenges here as well. So in closing out this presentation, I'd just like to give you a quick overview of Sage's solutions and how we are uniquely positioned in the marketplace to grow with our customers and partner with them through their life cycle. Our strategy is to provide the basic building blocks for our customers to construct a financial accounting and business management platform that suits their unique business needs. It starts with a foundation where we have a solution for every step in the business life cycle. These building blocks enable companies to change their business management solution as their needs evolve. So whether your company is just starting out, growing, or maturing, Sage can help. If you're looking for online solutions to run your business in the cloud, Sage can help. Or if you want to take a hybrid approach and want to pick which parts of your operations you manage outside of the office with mobile and cloud solutions, Sage can help. So our portfolio of solutions has been designed to coexist across market verticals and scale with you as your business grows. We're also working to build out each solution with a range of additional services, both on-premise and in the cloud, to provide additional benefits as you move up the value chain. And finally, we're continually striving to add migration tools and technology that ease your transition from solution to solution.
Thank you very much, Daniel. That ends the presentation portion of today's webinar. We're now going to move on to the Q&A portion, so if you have any additional questions while we're doing this, feel free to submit them using the Q&A widget on the top left-hand side of your screen. So to start us off, we've got one for Daniel. Daniel, does Sage offer migration tools and services for moving customers between different solutions as their needs evolve?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. Yes, and we do. The short answer is yes. I mean, we're unique in the marketplace in that we have a dedicated network of partners. There are hundreds of partners throughout North America that we work with, business partners, I should say, that we work with, and they really are our sort of a customer-facing resource that we use for any of the migrations that customers moving from one solution to the next, or if they're moving from perhaps a legacy or a heritage product to perhaps one of the more modern cloud solutions that Sage offers, then yeah, we have a dedicated network of partners that can help with that. We also have migration tools in terms of technology and software So, for example, if you're migrating databases, as we all know how data-intensive ERP systems are. So if you're migrating databases from one version to another, then we also have technology tools that can help in that respect. So, yes, we can help in that.
Excellent, thank you. Now, Daniel just talked about migrating a little bit. Now, Nick, do you have any research or recommendations for when I should replace my ERP, when it's time to migrate?
Sure. I mean, really, it comes down to when your solution is no longer able to support your business and the needs of your business. So if you're looking to expand in ways that your ERP just isn't built to support, then it's time to move on. I do, as I mentioned, recommend always being on the current version of ERP. If your ERP solution is no longer supported by your vendor, obviously that makes that solution or that decision easy for you. But really, as with anything, it's all about, can your solution support your business as it continues to support the initiatives that you're looking to embark on. So look to an ERP solution that's scalable, look to an ERP solution that's easy to use, and look to having a good relationship with your ERP vendor, and it's going to help to avoid some of that need for change.
Excellent, thank you. Now, Nick, also, you mentioned this briefly in your presentation, but this is a big question we get a lot. Where can mobile technology impact the business?
Sure. It's basically really anywhere where you really need access to data and the ability to input data at the point of activity. So really where employees are on their feet and they're away from a workstation. So things like order management when you have salespeople out dealing with customers. Things like field service management where you're out in the field. Things like inventory management or warehouse management. The types of things where your employees can really benefit from having that access to data right in the palm of their hands, rather than the types of things where it's really not as effective just throwing the whole ERP suite on the mobile solution. So look to having tailored use cases and tailored applications utilizing ERP to ensure that your employees are more effective in the field. So it's really something that can help to improve the customer experience and help to make your organization differentiated from your competitors.
All right. Thank you very much, Nick. Now, commonly, whenever you have mobile, we always get questions about the cloud as well. So, Daniel, I have a question for you. Are all of your customers looking to the cloud for their business management solutions now?
Another great question. In short, no. I think the market, as Nick alluded to in his presentation, is trending in that direction. But he also mentioned that the vast majority of ERP customers are still on-premise at this stage. So from Sage's perspective, we're also seeing that demographic reflected in our customer base. So for some of our mid-market solutions in North America, by far the majority are on-premise. But what we are seeing in terms of the trend is that change is coming. It's going to take some years, obviously, until cloud is mainstream adopted. But what we are seeing now is some customers who are looking to keep the on-premise solution and all the security and robustness and familiarity that contains, but augmenting that solution with cloud-based services. And that's certainly the approach that we're taking with some of our existing products, is that they can keep the on-premise for the core accounting and the database and security and so on. But if they wanted to add, say, a CRM element or add a business intelligence element, we offer those as cloud-connected services. So that's sort of a happy middle ground for a lot of customers. So but if they want obviously a full cloud solution, then we offer flavors of that also.
Thank you, Daniel. I have another one for you. In Sage's experience with your customers, what do you think has been the biggest challenge for growing companies? And Nick, feel free to jump in with some research insight after Daniel, if you have any.
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. I think so. From our experience, I think one of the biggest challenges that customers are having in terms of their growth is just having access to all the available data in real time. I think there's a business visibility angle that customers are required to have now that perhaps when they're just starting up or when they're smaller and they're not as competitive, then those pressures aren't really there. But I think certainly from our perspective, business visibility company-wide in real time, accessible remotely as well, is probably the major challenge that we're finding customers are having.
Yeah, really, that's the number one challenge as well. It's just a lack of insight into data is what makes it very difficult for organizations to continue to operate as they have in the past. So they need to rely on technology to provide that to decision makers on a real-time basis so they can become more effective.
All right, thank you. So we have one more question, and this is related to something Daniel touched on just a little bit ago when we were talking about cloud and security. Are there any other specific security considerations that people should be taking into consideration when moving towards these mobile and cloud-based ERP solutions, Nick?
Yeah, we used to get security questions around the cloud, but really over the past several years, those have kind of really been minimized more and more. Cloud solutions, really, the adoption first started on some of the or I'd say some of the applications that were really more tangential to the core ERP applications. So you saw it first in things like CRM and HR, and now really it's becoming more and more where ERP and financial applications are starting to be implemented in the cloud, and that's really because a few different reasons. Number one, we've actually found that cloud solutions are more secure than on-premise solutions. We saw over a year time frame, those that were deployed in the cloud saw half as many instances of security instances as well as half as many downtime instances as those that are on-premise. And so not only are they more secure, it's really because the organizations that are providing these cloud solutions, their whole way of doing business rests on them being able to supply solutions that are secure. And also just people are more comfortable with putting their information in the cloud, both in their personal and professional lives. So in personal lives, more and more people are comfortable with putting their banking information online. So it's just kind of been a natural evolution that I think has been minimized pretty substantially over the past few years.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Nick. I think it's just some great points. And it's obviously people are, when they're dealing with financial information, and obviously security is a key requirement. So all I would add is to say that if you are considering moving ERP into the cloud, then that's a question to ask of the vendor of choice, because obviously the ramifications of insecure data is huge. So making sure that your vendor is providing you with that ironclad security should be one of the first questions in any ERP selection process.
All right, excellent. Thank you both very much. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today, everyone. I want to take a moment to thank Nick and Daniel for sharing your research, insights, and recommendations with us today. And thank you to our sponsor, Sage, for making this webinar possible. We hope you found today's broadcast to be beneficial, and if you have any final questions, you can submit them to our speakers. The contact information can be found on the screen, as well as in the bio section. At the conclusion of the webinar, we have a short survey about today's event. We'd like to hear any feedback you have on our webinars and appreciate your time. Thank you very much for your